Namaskaram. Hello and welcome to PGurus Primetime. Today's special event is the sole superpower in the world today. Who is it? I have given you the two finalists. If you can look at my background, these are the two finalists. One of them is considered a superpower today, and that is according to Professor R. Vaidyanathan. And before I proceed further, I'd like to welcome Professor RV to this weekly Friday Hangouts Ask RV. Professor RV, Namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel, sir.
Very much, Sri Iyer. And you put 3M Iyer, right?
That is my middle name, sir. M is my hometown, Mambakam. I like to keep that affinity.
Okay, I thought it is M for middle name itself. Anyhow, okay. Now, dear audience, it's always a delight to be part of the PGurus initiative, and I'm very happy you are all joining. After much of persuasion by Iyer, I have decided to venture into this weekly bhashan, and he has been extremely enthusiastic about it. This is enough number of people will be there to listen to you, and question answers are always welcome. It's called actually Indian Conservative Vacha. Why Indian Conservative? Indian Conservative in order to distinguish it from Hindu Conservative. There is a subtle difference between the two. Hindu Conservative is a subset of Indian Conservative. If you are familiar with the Venn diagram, and it is not a complete subset. Slightly it is overlapping. There are some elements. As we go along, we will understand that. Uvacha is very interesting actually. You know one thing, Uvacha is gender neutral. You can, it is Saraswati Uvacha as well as it can be Krishna Uvacha, it can be Shiva Uvacha. It's a very interesting type of a word. And it has something like past actually. Uvacha was told, was said as something. So how can it be used? Because we presume that people are going to watch the YouTube for quite some time in the future also, not just today. That is why the word was chosen. And we will look at some of the interesting topics as we go along. Like we will look at corruption later, and caste-based reservation further later, and issues pertaining to judicial delays, and like that we will explore topics. See, actually, if you want to do a proper projection, you require to have a significant amount of a research desk actually. You know, many of our TV channels, I find, they don't have a good research desk at all, except perhaps the Beyond's Palika Basu, who has a good research desk, I presume. And regional channel, no need to tell anything. Tamil channels I watch, none of them have got research desk. I am convinced about it. They just come and like in the olden villages, you sit in the pile and discuss something, and no background. I will give you one simple example. There was a discussion on this China encroaching upon Indian land and other thing in a Tamil channel called Pudhiya Thalamarai. The anchor, I don't know where from he got the information. He began to blabber that China doesn't have any border dispute or anything with any other country other than India. Which is, totally absurd actually. It has huge amount of disputes on the sea, on the land with other countries, with Taiwan, with Japan, with the Sparkly Islands, with the Philippines, any number of countries actually. It has got disputes. India is not the only unique country or anything. But anyhow, he told this and got away with it. Other people also. So what does that give an impression that India is the only country which is, why I gave this as an illustration is, there is no background research or no type of a study. The gentleman's name, if I recall correctly, is Karthik Salva. There is no background study, nothing. So I also have that handicap in the sense I am not having a huge research team or anything. Why I brought this out is I call my Twitter followers as Sengistan. So in case you do some serious research or you find some interesting issues, whether in corruption, whether it's caste reservation, any issue, but it should be factual, preferably data backed. Kindly send it to me at rvaidya2000 gmail@gmail.com. My Gmail is rvaidya2000 @gmail.com. You can also send it to PGurus. PGurus has got that, what is that mail address?
SI, my initials, SI at pgurus.com.
At pgurus.com. SI at pgurus.com. You can also send it there. I'll be very happy. Don't send just your, whining, ranting, and your worries, concern, and that will not be very useful. Send something factual, something which you have observed, something has come from newspaper with the database, so that later on somebody should say that you have put in a bogus thing in your program or something. And if I use that, I will definitely mention your name as well as your, that you are the ones who submitted it or you are the ones who gave it. And this is just as a initial introduction. And today we would be talking about the global power, or what one can call it as the superpower. There is normally one superpower only. And again and again the Western media is writing the emerging power, China. It is like the Rahul Gandhi being written as an emerging leader. From 2004 they are writing it. Emerging leader, developing leader, coming up leader. And he has been launched, I do not know how many times actually. More than the number of launches ISRO has made in the last 20 years. And even today, yesterday, I was reading somewhere that how he is emerging as a major leader. It's not like that. Emerging leader, superpower is being mentioned again and again. So we will see it is an emerged superpower. And you will be surprised to know it's the only superpower today in the world, not others. 2016 itself, it was number one in GDP in terms of purchasing power parity, PPP. We will explain that. And we presume that in another maximum 2 years, in nominal term also, it will cross US in terms of the GDP. You will be surprised to know that last year, it was the only country in the world which had a positive growth rate. Last year, I mean 2021. Everyone had a negative, and this year they are claiming to have 10 to 11% or something. So there is no doubt about it that they are the period between 1945 and 1955. If you go back in time, it's exactly the same type of period we are witnessing. The England, France were reluctant to recognize US. Finally, they recognized US as the only superpower. US had actually what you may loosely call the only power which had a nuclear weapon. And the same way today, it's the only power China has got the biological weapon. That is what we will explore in this talk. After the end of the talk, I will take up some of the interesting questions which you might have already sent or you might be sending it.
Yeah, they are coming, sir. They are coming.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining. And the initiative, I would thank Sri Iyer also. So after this, next Friday. So Friday 9 p.m. you put it in your digital calendar that this is the time for listening to the old professor. So that is what you have to recall or recollect. Okay. A new topic, and if another thing, if you feel any particular topic requires to be dealt with, do send me. Do send me that as part of your mail. This you may take it up another day. Right?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thanks
a lot.
Thank you, sir. As Professor mentioned, we are going to play a quick clip of Professor RV talking about this topic, the sole superpower, where he gives you more data and facts So once that finishes, we'll be back to take your question. Sit back and relax.
And enjoy.
Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today I have with me the company of Professor R. Vaidyanathan, fondly called as Professor RV, and we're going to talk about China. And to know more about China, the superpower, let's join Professor R. Vaidyanathan. Professor RV, namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel, sir.
Namaskaram. Thanks a lot. And it's always a great joy to be in the PGurus channel because of the most knowledgeable audience as well as most interesting interlocutor, namely our Sri Iyer. And I'm told the number of responses on the channel is increasing. The viewership is also some numbers like 2 crore or anything. Crore is in terms of our measure of 100 million. So all of them seem to be in a very what do you call that, good side, except of course the COVID, which is the only on the downside, which is impacting both US, India, I think practically most of the countries. Now, he was mentioning about China. A lot of literature is coming out on China as an emerging power and other. I am always amused because emerging power they are writing for the last 10 years actually. It is like, in a very light-hearted way, the comparison would be Rahul being launched in politics. He is being launched from nearly 2004 or 5, I think. Every time they say he's launched and he's coming up and it will improve and what will he do? Will Rahul? Nothing. Actually, in the last, if you see yesterday's results, another thing, very pathetic actually. The Congress is practically not there. In Bengal, it has been decimated, and in Kerala, it has lost. And it's a dying force. Except in Tamil Nadu, that's due to because of DMK. Anyhow, so it's not an emerging power. Let's be first clear about that. If you ask me, it is the sole superpower in the world today. Take it from me. It's the single superpower in the world today. You will be surprised. What about US? US was a superpower. There is no doubt about it. It's something similar to what took place after the Second World War. The process of being a big power shifted from UK and partly some countries of Europe into the hands of US. This was not recognized from 1945 to 1950, 51, 52 period actually. After the one is US had a nuclear weapon. US had the audacity, if you ask me the word I will use correctly, to bomb Japan after the Second World War. Japanese have surrendered. War is over. War has come to an end, has been declared. But quietly they went and bombed nuclear bomb. No country condemned the US for that. People are afraid of US that time actually. They didn't tell it outside because it was the only power which had nuclear weapons. Around 53, 54, slowly it began to be recognized that US is the superpower actually. Then Eisenhower regime and freeways being started and the whole US complexion changed and US was recognized as the exceptionalism of the US and it became a big power and started having army bases. So currently I am told some 130 places world over they have got their bases. So US was recognized over a period of time actually and the same thing is happening for China. China is a superpower. It is whether one likes it or not. What is the significance of this is it always used to be told 21st century is going to be Asian century and a lot of people in India were jumping with joy thinking it is Indian century. It is not. It is the Chinese century. Let's be very clear. China is also Asia. So 21st century is Asian century means Chinese century. What is the interesting point is China has altered the understanding of the global paradigm. What is the global paradigm? Global paradigm used to be the American paradigm, which was continuation of the European paradigm of the Renaissance period of the 18th and 19th century. It had a tripod. One is what is called individualism. Individual is the ultimate. He will be able to decide what is good for him, what is not good for him. That is the one leg of the tripod. Second leg of the tripod is what is called the human rights. And third leg of the tripod is uh, most importantly what is called the individualism, uh, human right, and democracy. One man, one vote, and the first past goal will be the winner. These three are considered as one of the tripod of the global paradigm, which was spread all over the world. Whether human rights are fully followed by these countries is a separate issue. But as a idea, this is the one which was individualism, human rights, and democracy. If you are not democratic, it's okay, but no good. You should be. And India used to be patted sometime or other on the back for being democratic. So this is the tripod. Now what China has done is they have removed all the three legs. First and foremost is individualism. And even India actually never stressed on individualism. Let's be clear. It's a borrowed idea. In India, if you go back to the Bhishma's advices and other thing, he says individuals must sacrifice for the family. Family must sacrifice for the community. Community must sacrifice for the country. Like that it goes on. So individual is only a small cog in the wheel from our point of view. But somehow we adopted the European attitude and all our regulation laws are all individual centric only. And the report on how the Wuhan virus came and other thing is completely muddled. It's packed in an enigma, and delivered through a puzzle. Nobody knows. The team went to there and the guided tour was done, and some say it is bird, some say it is this, and nobody wants to pinpoint that Chinese are solely responsible for it. Height of it is China itself claimed there is no impact domestically. This is something unbelievable. India is suffering. Millions of people are impacted and other things. Within China, they are having all their open air activities, closed air activities, and other things. And they are planning to clock something like nearly 10 to 11% economic growth. Actually, remember one important thing: in another 2 years, China's GDP will be same as that of USA in nominal term. It's already 18 trillion US dollar. US is not growing at a spectacular rate. In terms of the purchasing power parity, kindly note, China is already number one. India is number two, number three, US, then Japan. These are the four countries. I am talking about nominal terms. And almost all the many countries in Africa, you may loosely call is their colony already. They have made huge investment there, and many of the African countries are struggling hard, including our Sri Lanka in the which is adjacent to India in terms of repayment. And these people are slowly advising them to give over the projects to them. And Central Asia, they have already got huge amount of investment. And physical number of Chinese in some of these countries is mind-boggling. Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. Their population itself is so small. For projects, huge project, these people go and occupy there. So China has got enormous amount of economic control of the world. In a large number of global institutions, they are now having an important role. My estimate is something like 15 to 20 global institutions, like your WTO, Human Rights Organization, so many one can list. China is having a dominant role. So it's very difficult for many of these entities to even criticize China. And eagerly waiting for this US to withdraw from Afghanistan. Withdrawal is just a very normal. US is very good in nomenclature, creating all these things. When the last helicopter left Vietnam, people were hanging in that of the US embassy actually. That's how that time itself, the global paper never told US has surrendered. They only told US has withdrawn. I cannot understand. Anyhow, Afghanistan also, once they leave Afghanistan, China will be extremely happy. I'm telling you, because it would provide them a huge amount of cushion as well as entry into these Central Asia. Because Central Asia is energy dominant. This is something which is very important. The future lies there. And China is very quick to adopt in terms of, for instance, social media. India, so much amount of debate is taking place. Should government regulate Facebook? Should government think in terms of regulating Twitter and all? Chinese, they have their own and they will regulate. Their basic principle is very simple. Political power comes out of the barrel of the gun. But the second sentence is equally important. The gun should be controlled by the party. Party controls the gun, even today. And that's why any businessman, anybody, including Jack Ma, stepping out a little away from the line which is mentioned is discarded. It's not something which is uncommon for them to act. And Xi has declared himself to be president for life. I don't know whose life, his life, party life, or and like our friend in Russia, Putin, he says till 1932 or I don't know, some 2032 or some unbelievable number, he will continue to be the president. This is self-declared only. There is nothing like some of the African countries. The president, they will conduct an election. 99.9% have voted for the president. I don't know who is that 0.1% fellow who didn't vote. Maybe his family member. God knows. Anyhow, China has removed the tripod of the Western idea of the global order. Let's be very, very clear about it. The new global order is that of China. Chinese global order will not stress on democracy as we understand. One man, one vote and all that is all crap according to them. You can follow any method, you can follow rising hand, you can follow their own method. They are not going to impose all this. Similarly, human rights, they are not very particular, and individualism, they are not. Now, can the West deal with China? If you ask me, no. One, West is declining power, as I told you. Economically, they are in bad shape. US is in much more bad shape because they are at war with themselves. A society which is at war with itself can never lead others. Take it from you. Anyhow, who can deal with China? Only India can deal with China. How can India deal with China, sir? We are some 3.5 trillion and they are 20 trillion GDP. No, we can deal with China using a critical component of our culture. We are culturally aligned with China. China's Communist Party tried to move it. Now, what is the interesting thing is, we have always appreciated those who have sacrificed. And the major people who are remembered in India are not those who occupied power or anything. Recently, only the Forbes list of billionaires and other thing is coming up. We never gave any importance to billionaires, and the billionaires are all children. We wanted, all those, half-clad, sannyasins of the Jain order, they were the ones who were treated with enormous amount of respect and other. Same thing about Gandhi, same thing. So one who give up is appreciated. This is our criticality. In other words, materialism by itself is not adequate. It has to be backed up, or it has to be understood in the context of spiritualism. And that is our strength. And that we have lost somewhere in the road. But we can try to go to China and spread it. Many of you may not know, China doesn't recognize Hinduism as a religion. China recognizes Protestant, Catholic, Islam, Shintoism, Buddhism. Hinduism doesn't come. First and foremost is we should demand from China, which they will agree. I don't think it's going to be any big issue, that Hinduism should be recognized in China as a religion. Second is, we should send like cockroaches all over. We have multi-million gurus floating around in India actually, on this, on that issue, this yoga, that yoga, all of them, you send them to China. 3, print million copies of this Amar Chitra Katha original, in terms of Mahabharata and Ramayana and all those in Mandarin language. You see this manga, they say about all these Japanese comics, but these will, hands down, this will win in China. So younger groups, the relatively younger group, try to capture their imagination that materialism is not enough. That is the Communist Party's core idea, that a man can be satisfied with the bread alone. That's what they will say. And I question them, is bread is enough? They will say, no, 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 butter is also needed. That's all. There is no other. So the communist philosophy of materialism should be answered by us in terms of our spiritual code. In other words, lower level we should try to capture by all these yoga, Ayurveda, this spiritual thing, then pranayama. Hundreds of things are available with us, and we are culturally linked with China for thousands of years. Let's be very clear about it. They have taken over a huge amount of literature from India in terms of medicine, in terms of dance, architecture, everything through the sea route of Burma, actually. So it's not something which is new. Slowly they are also recognizing the importance, and they are giving importance to Confucianism. But I think, so what we should do is create some 50 China centers in India where Mandarin is taught, where large number of people are encouraged to know about China. We should stop looking at China through this lens of Washington Post and the New York Times and that. They use their Western lens to look at China and go on talking about democracy is not there, human. We should talk about China in terms of materialism, dominant society is dangerous. We should try to go to the roots of Buddhist philosophy, stress on spiritualism. The man doesn't live by bread alone, not even with added butter. He requires something more than that. This is what is the message which India can give from the below. And from below you heat it, as I call it. It's called a Rabdi treatment, I would say. This is the core principle we should adopt. You might have seen in some of the North Indian towns in India, Rabdi being made in the roadside. Huge kadai will be kept, and then Rabdi is nothing but the milk getting condensed significantly. In Tamil, it's called Tharatipa. So all this, what they do is heat it from below, and with a hand held fan, they will be cooling it from above. Heat it from below and cool it from above. This is very critical. This is the Rabdi method of treating. And this is helpful in organization. This is helpful in dealing with other countries. And so that should be our fundamental principle. Heat it from below, from the youth, from the younger segments and others. Cool it from above. Cool it from above how? Tell China that we are not insisting you should become democratic or anything. We are not insisting you should. We accept it. We accept your rejection of the Western ideal. You are the and at the same time, trust to them and see that the heating from below attacks the core of the Communist Party. This is what we have to do. Kindly distinguish between Communist Party and the Chinese population. This is what and no point in going on telling them you require to have democracy. Nobody cares. I have traveled extensively in China several times. I have taught there. They are not very interested in this voting, shutting and other. They think it's all a funny thing in the US actually. And I remember one joke on a student of a Chinese student. There was a confusion during the earlier election of Bush time, if you recall. The Chad, they call it, that counting time, that the paper, that honor of the paper or whatever it is slightly mutilated. So the Chad, CHAD, it's called. This boy told me, I always thought Chad is a country in Africa. Why are they trying to create so much amount of issue about this stupid thing? So they don't take this democracy are all very seriously. And they also don't take all these human rights very seriously as long as oppressing others. And individualism is something which they don't respect as much as which Indians also should do. So only country which can deal with China using the Rabdi method is India. I think we should be alert about it, and we should initiate steps in order to And it's the only superpower. Don't have any emerging country and this and that and all that. Don't talk to me. A single superpower in the world today is China. Z is its head. And we should know how to deal with that. Thank you very much.
Professor RV, that was a very revealing conversation, or rather, I should say, lecture. I heard what you're saying. In fact, I listened and listened good, and a lot of thoughts, a lot of food for thought. And I'm sure China also watches our videos because we've been very critical of them in some places. Be that as it may, it's important to understand what are the commonalities. And I think let us try and see how best we can apply the rubbery treatment. And we are back. Here we go. First question, sir. First question. Balaji KR wants to know, why does hyperinflation cannot be seen in USA even though they print so much money?
In USA, you mean?
Yes.
And the gentleman or lady who asked the question should know roughly 2/3 of US currency is outside US. So they can afford to print.
That is the key to the question.
Countries like India, China, everybody has invested in that.
Next question is from Mr. Lee. What do you expect from tomorrow's meeting between EU leaders and PM Modi? What do you expect EU leaders and PM Modi?
New?
What do you expect between PM and EU leaders, European Union leaders, tomorrow meeting?
New leaders from India, you mean?
From tomorrow, Modi is going to be talking to EU leaders, EU, European Union.
That all okay. Lot of talking can be done. Nothing wrong about it. But the only important point is we should not look at China from using US or EU lens. That is what I am insisting. China has got presumably 15 to 16 India study centers. India has got only, I think, if I recall correctly, one in JNU. That is also more like a pro-China center than any study. So first of all, we should study it thoroughly and not jump into this EU or US bandwagon. Very, very risky because it's like, mud horses trying to cross a river. Half the way they know it might dissolve. They may not come. For instance, Hawaii, they may say banning. After 6 months or 1 year, they will allow Hawaii. They are not. They will say, taking into consideration overall picture, we had a discussion with China and they have decided to implement the following safeguards and other things. So I think we should be very careful in trying to deal with China using their parameters. We must deal with China on our parameter. Let me repeat it again and again. And let me tell very senior people in China consider India to be their elder brother. Because they feel, Buddhism emanated from here, etc. So I think we should use our civilizational and cultural links. EU doesn't know any of these things. EU will just, talk about some, international treaties, obligations and other things. That's all. Neither EU nor US has got any civilizational and cultural links with China. Only India has got it. And that is the one which we should leverage. And that is below the Communist Party of China. That's what I called it rubbery treatment. You should quietly heat them from below and cool it from above. So that is what we should be doing it. I thought it came in the
yes, it did.
Earlier.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Okay.
Next question, sir. Same Mr. Lee. Do you agree with Huntington's template? Samuel Huntington's template of clash of civilization?
No, unfortunately, Huntington never, for instance, he doesn't even consider India. He never visited, nor he took it as a parameter and other thing. And also, he was primarily focusing on the religion of peace and religion of love. That is their, it is main thing. And post 9/11, of course, to a large extent, he was justified. So Europe will face some part of the Huntington issue, but the China issue is completely different. China issue is totally not connected with that. And our aim should be to destabilize China using our cultural and civilizational links and deal with them on our own accord. And don't use that, China doesn't have democracy, China doesn't have this, I told you the tripod on which the entire European, American exceptionalism and European thing were built. China has demolished the tripod. China doesn't take it seriously. China says one man, one vote is in our way. In the sense, Communist Party has also got internal voting system. And similarly, individualism, China is not very much for. China wants actually the people to sacrifice for the party and the country. And the third is in terms of this individualism, democracy, and the other point also, China is not very enthusiastic. So the tripod has been quietly removed by China. And whenever people say that 21st century is Asian century, what is meant is Chinese century. Let's be very, very clear about it. And they would like to deal it on their own terms, not on the terms of others. This is also to be remembered. And we, unnecessarily we should provoke China. Just because US is instigating us or EU is instigating us, they will just leave us. It's like the old, story of in many languages. The fellow says that a tiger is coming into the village. The fellow says, all those who are afraid of the tiger, kindly lie on me. He will be in the bottom. Everybody else will fall on him, but the tiger will come. So it will take a long time for it to reach him. So that is the attitude of these white and coconuts. So let's be very clear. This is the century of the yellow. And as brown, how are we going to deal with it? That is the important point. Okay.
Next question from Raghuveer Parthasarathi. Should India follow the Deng Xiaoping model of not taking the lead, hide our talents and bide our time?
Deng Xiaoping model of?
Hide our talents and bide our time.
That's okay.
Wait for the right time.
We can follow any model, but it is not going to be immediately helpful. Let us be very clear. See, we are around 3 trillion, what we can call US dollar.
Economy. Yeah.
We are reaching something like 20 trillion. And their forex reserves are phenomenally large compared to ours. So, there is let's be very, very clear, there is a huge gap between us. And we have got a huge amount of fault lines which they can exploit. We don't even know any fault lines within China to exploit it. Forget about exploiting. We have huge amount of Chinese lobby inside India. There was a group which told the Chinese chairman is our chairman. And the descendants of that group are having a good number of MLAs in Bihar and adjacent states. There is a huge difference between the two situations.
Yes, sir.
China can do many things and get away with it. For instance, Uyghur Muslims, all these fellows who are talking, Imran Khan was asked, he says, I have to study that problem. I have to study it, he says, coolly. It's a very unfortunate, but world is like that only. Yeah.
Viewers, as we speak, I hope some of you or all of you have read Professor Subramanian Swami's tweet today that the Chinese have amassed their troops once again on the Ladakh border, and he also added that it was a mistake on part of India to withdraw from the Kailash heights. I just want you to keep this in perspective as we start going through the questions today. So the next question from the same person: do you think this pandemic has exposed the fragility of federalism? For instance, USA, India, Brazil, all being federal state, suffered more than a unitary country such as Argentina, Chile, or RSA, that is Republic of Saudi Arabia, I think.
No, I don't think it is federalism versus. You see, Republic of Saudi Arabia is, you know, is neither here nor there. First of all, it's not even a democratic country, and it's actually Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That's very important. KSA, and and so the point is important is the amount of fault lines and amount of ability to withstand. You see, China has introduced this bio warfare. Let's be very clear. So if they decide that Brazil or USA should have more of this COVID, they will have to have. Let's be very, very clear about it. I am very clear at least. China will decide when our peak will come, when our trough will come. Whatsoever you are doing. They introduce it in the commercial capital of India, and then the IT capital, and the actual political capital. It is a biological weapon which is available with them. After nearly 2 years, World Health Organization is not able to come out with a report. How did this originate? They all went there for a study tour, and like a conducted tour, they were taken around, and like Tirupati, Jarigandi. Before they go near the, I don't know, those who visited Tirupati will understand what I am talking about. Before they went near Wuhan, they were told Jarigandi, go away, like that. This is a, shocking thing actually. No country in the world, Germany, France, England, Poland, Austria, except that Brazil, recently its chief, Bolsonaro, he told it is a bio warfare may be conducted by China. Maybe. Nobody else is talking about China virus also. There is only one single TV station, Beyond, which talk about Wuhan virus. In the whole world. See, people are afraid of China. Let's be very clear about it. I don't know how many times I have to, shout about it. Somebody asked a question like EU is talking to India. Let EU talk to China. At that time, you should watch the pant of the EU presidents and prime ministers. Is it still wet or is it's not wet? People are terrorized about China today. Nobody, understand this elementary problem. They say Quad will meet and this and then suddenly they say, what is this? Biden, Joe Biden has told that the IPR can be relaxed. That becomes a very major issue. That's a big victory. He has just told it. That's all. It is not relaxed. It will take at least 2-3 years. By the time, So China can introduce this bioweapon at its own will and pleasure. Wherever it want to, it can introduce. Wherever it want to withdraw, it can do that. Let's be very, very, it's just like a nuclear weapon in the hands of US post-45. And that was the only country with a nuclear weapon that time. Much later, others also jumped in, but still US was recognized as a global power. So, and China, World Health Organization, that Tedros, who is the poodle of China, he is going to be re-elected president of that organization. Actually, the senior people, including Tedros, should be arrested and put under Nuremberg trial for, complicity with China in this global, murder which has taken place. I'm not totally wrong at all, I am telling. This WHO has not, 2 years has taken not a single word from WHO how this disease has organized. There are as many number of theories floating around, but no official thing from WHO. People, I don't know how much to repeat it, 100 times I can shout. World leaders are afraid of China. That's the correct word I will use. Nothing more or nothing less. Any other thing is sophistry. No, we will have negotiation, we will have discussion, we will have, nothing is going to. Xi is happy. and he may continue like what is our Russian fellow. I think Russian fellow is supposed to continue up to, I don't know, 30,
Yes,
36
yes,
or
yes.
what.
Xi also has declared himself as president for life, sir.
Whose life, I don't know. Whether the country's life, his life, party's life. Same way, Xi is now will be continuing for another, I don't know, as long as his health is okay. It's a, elementary question nobody wants to ask. Wuhan is the originator of the virus. Shanghai is not affected. Peking is not affected. But they talk about, Brazil affected by an Indian mutant, Indian variant. What is all this rubbish happening in the world here? Nobody is questioning China. Why? What about your own internal thing? Anyhow, world leaders are afraid of China, including Biden, including Merkel, Macron, any number of, you can add them. Macron has got additional problem of, domestic Islam terrorism. That's a separate issue. It's a, double whammy for him, poor fellow. Yeah.
And viewers, please subscribe to our channel. Please join our membership. There are a few who joined today in this hangout. It is our opinion, and it's our view to try and continue to give you quality programming such as this one, where we are bringing our guests live. It takes a lot more effort on our part to make sure that the live program goes off smoothly. Right now, for example, Professor RV is having some difficulty hearing me, but he is gamely carrying on. But the point I'm trying to make is, some of you write to us saying that too many ads are coming when they play back. Well, the way to not have to encounter that is to listen to it live. When we go live, zero ads. So that is the benefit for you to joining these programs and listening it when it airs live. We are now Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays, 4 days in a week. Now we have live programming at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Make it a habit to tune into PGurus channels, whether it is Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. You know we are going to be there, and you know that we give you only quality content. We don't give any slanted, biased content, only quality from us. So thanks for listening, and we are going to continue on with the next question. Professor RV, Mandar Karnik wants to know, I see stability in the world in the coming decades. Will this instability work in the biggest country's favor? Can India capitalize with reforms?
India, India, India is talking about reforms from 1980 or something. Every time we are, it's like, I shouldn't use again the same similarity. It's like Rahul Gandhi is being launched. So, India and reform is a big joke it has become actually, because our thoughts, our words and our action should be on a straight line, which it is not. We want to say that you tell me what is the level of reform undertaken by any state government pertaining to regulatory framework in the state government. Let it be BJP government, let it be Congress government, let it be from 1980. You tell me any one state government has made any major changes. Some reforms have been undertaken post Narasimha Rao time. That is the separate thing. He initiated the reforms, and then we have not made any major reform at the state level, and that is the most critical thing. We will be able to leverage on it provided our state governments are able to bring in reforms. Municipalities should be able to bring reform. We are struggling hard in the epidemic because our municipalities and corporations are run on 19th century principles. So I don't think we will be able to leverage much on this. Sorry.
Next question, sir. Next question from Gary Baines. Will China be able to deal with water scarcity, desertification in the north, graying population, exploding debt, worsening relations?
Yes, they have a huge issues on both the side. What you are telling is correct. But nobody in the world is taking it up as an issue. You know, when Three Gorges Dam was built, 10 million, which is roughly, 10 million plus actually, more than 1 crore people were affected, displaced, and 2 to 3 million has perished. You tell me one country, this Greta, all these people who are, fifth fail and sixth pass, who talk about global environment and other. Any of them have talked about that? No. So China will deal with those issues in an extremely, brutal way, because there is no type of, environmental or type of pressure on them at all. Amount of carbon which is emitted or this and that, and nobody is going to check with them. So I agree they do face a big problem, but because of international silence, they will be able to tackle some of them very, very efficiently. Even these Brahmaputra dams which they are planning, India will shout and murmur, and what else India can do? So that is what is going to be happening.
Thank you, sir. The next question, before I ask the next question, 1 second. Viewers, we are stopped now taking questions. We have a lot to work through. So kindly keep your questions for our next hangout, which will be next Friday at 9 p.m. The next question, Professor RV, Mohit Katuria wants to know, how desirable is it for China to see US's political turmoil overwhelm US's institutions, as China's rise is almost completely dependent upon loans from US banks?
China's rise is, no sir, sorry. China's first and foremost thing is, we have to internalize and recognize US is a declining power. It's at war with itself. The greatest blunder with this Bihari, Biden-Harris group did was to use this, Black Lives Matter as a BLM, it's riding on a tiger. It's like using LTTE to come to power, or Khalistanis to come to power. Exactly what Indira Gandhi did in terms of mistake of, sort of silently encouraging Bindranwale. They have done that. Today there were a shooting and two. Every day I have been watching for the last 6 months. Every day on an average 4 to 5 people are getting killed in US. I don't know whether you are aware of it even. Most of the Indian media doesn't even cover this. Something or other, two South Korean ladies were hammered yesterday on the road. So you have opened up a genie in the name of BLM, and now it is becoming Asian Life Matters, and slowly and within a couple of months it will be American Life Matter. That is what is going to happen. So this is that's a declining power, one. And second is, large corporations in US don't care about US. They don't even pay taxes there. And that is one of the grouses of this thing. The big companies are not accountable to anybody other than themselves. And if Biden is bringing that so-called tax on large asset holding, the couple are getting divorced. So this fellow says that what is our
Bill Gates,
Microsoft, he is divorcing.
Bill Gates.
This is tax planning. It is nothing to do with. Don't immediately jump that after 27 years how can they? They will continue to live in the same thing, and legally they would be. So this is big US companies, big US banks. They may lend it to China, they may lend it to India, but they won't go along as it's an American type of a situation. Kindly note, totally different than the 60s and 70s. US corporations are now global corporations. They are not just US corporations. Just like some of the Japanese ones are global. And Japanese much issue is their market is more global than in Japan today. So China is not rising due to loans given by America. The China's forex reserve is so large, 4.5 trillion or some numbers I don't huge actually. So they don't have to. Actually, they have invested substantially in US treasury bills and US markets.
Real
And
estate, sir.
if US dollar fall, China is more affected. China doesn't want US dollar to fall. That's a separate issue. We'll discuss some other time. Okay.
Next question. Manoj K wants to know what will get abolished first in your view? Reservation in India or monarchy in United Kingdom?
Monarchy in United Kingdom may continue. In the sense, as somebody jokingly told, the only, the queen which will be left will be the Queen of England. In the playing cards 52, you may have other cards removed, but the Queen of England will remain as it is. And in India, reservation, we will have a separate discussion on it on some one Friday. That will be, as long as we have one man, one vote situation, it's very difficult to come out of it. It's a very, very massive, what I would call marshy land in which we have got ourselves into. One gentleman who was Prime Minister for a short period, VP Singh, he will be eternally remembered for pushing India into a abyss. We will discuss that in a separate. It will continue. Don't worry, sir. And fortunately, Queen is not selected by reservation. These two, of course, are separate. Queen comes out of what you loosely call dynasty. Okay, here it is. So that's the thing. We will look at it. Okay.
And speaking of the Queen of England, viewers, if you trace the lineage of the other kings and queens that are there in Europe, you will see that many of them go back to one single family about 200 years ago. Everyone has come from there, whether it is Germany or Finland or Norway or Denmark. All of them have kings and queens, by the way. Belgium, so on and so forth. So all of them come from the same root. You'll be surprised. Another homework assignment for you. Don't worry, we will not fail you. Next question. Do we, same guy, Manoj K, do we eulogize too much about ourselves in the name of superpower and not do enough in action to make it a reality? Never seen outside India talking about it as a possible superpower. He's wondering if India is a superpower.
Yeah, we always talk about what is it called, soft power.
Yes.
As soft as fluffy as chapatis we make, in that advertisement it comes. Fortune, if you use that atta, you get fluffy. And the soft power and other thing are all nice, good thing, nothing wrong about it. Feel good factor. You go, some American actress comes here, was it Judy Foster or, gets into this yoga and other thing and goes back, and we are a very simpletons, not simple. We are very simpleton. If a US president says Happy Diwali, we are so, half of the country goes orgasmic actually. And that's all. Nothing more than that. Why are you so, excited about it? No, US president told Happy Diwali. That also, somebody would have told him how to pronounce. The point is, the soft power and other thing, nothing wrong about it. You can continue to keep it. In what way you have used it? You tell me. That is what I am telling. We must use our soft power to destabilize China. Are we planning that way? We are not. In what way? Everybody is appreciate. That's okay. And the white man's appreciation is super for us actually. If he comes and says Emma Subbulakshmi sings well, we are so thrilled about it actually, as if he is the one who has to come and tell us that. So we are not a superpower. Let's be very, very clear about it. We are a cyber power. Cyber mean not CYBER. I am talking in terms of Sybil. zero. They are a zero power. That's all. So there is don't have all these type of illusions and delusions and other things. They are not. When do you really can call yourself superpower? When by knitting of your prime minister, some other country can stop some action which is initiated by it. That is the most important thing, right? We cannot,
Yes. So
we
what Professor RV is saying is, if Prime Minister Modi if Prime Minister Modi sneezes, US should catch a cold. That's what he is saying. So
we don't.
next question.
No, there is
Wait.
nothing. We can do all these asanas and other thing. Good thing. Nothing wrong. Incidentally, I'm not ridiculing it. It's a good thing. So that's all. Right. Earlier, they were telling that it's a country of snake charmers and other thing. Now they are telling this is a country of all this, left nostril, right nostril, inhale and exhale. It's a inhaling and exhaling country. That's all. That's the only change which has come about in our position. Okay.
Next question, Ved Samaya. In future, do you see India same as present geography systems of politics and a party, or on a positive note, maybe a little possibility of dharmic nation?
Sorry.
Will India become a dharmic nation, not a democracy?
Dharmic.
Yes. In the future.
We have always been a dharmic. There is on that there is no doubt or anything, right? And this democracy and other thing was interpolated in the 47-48 period. That's all. And one important point I want to stress, we will come back to it some other time. The democracy has benefited several type of groups, what I call F20, 20 families which are controlling the political aspects of India. So it is not going to be very easy to, and we are dharmic separately. These two are not to be confused. It's like the British time, 9 to 5 and 5 to 9. 9 to 5 we are pant wearing and English talking and other things. 5 to 9 we are completely dharmic with our dhoti clad and chanting Vishnu Sahasranamam and other things. So there is a sort of a 9 to 5 and 5 to 9, right? So we have always been, incidentally, even today we are a dharmic nation. On that there is no doubt, right? People who believe in the dharmic principles. Otherwise, with this level of COVID, all our buses should have been burnt a long time before.
Yes. So this is the last question for today. Last question from Aam Aadmi. He is hiding behind some name. Is India overpopulated or over-urbanized already?
I would not say over-urbanized or anything. This is a process which we have initiated because we are imitating the Western model. So overpopulated in regard to what is the issue? In terms of density, in terms of scarce resources. If you take USA, it's 1/3 of India is 1/3 of the size roughly of the order and 3 times the population. So purely that type of a comparison if you make, of course we are. And to me there is nothing called being overpopulated or anything. Most important is, are we in a position to provide employment to all the mouths to eat which are being produced in our country? That's a very critical type of a thing. And different states also have got different type of population density within the country. If you take a state like UP, Bihar and other thing, it's totally different than states like Tamil Nadu or Kerala or Gujarat. So we have to have a perspective on this.
Sir, with that, we bring our program to a close.
One more for 2 minutes.
You want one more question, sir? I can ask you one more question.
10 we can close.
Okay. Last question again. Last question. Teja Gangadhar wants to know, Professor, what would be the future of this pandemic war and how to arrive at consensus between nations to refrain from such acts?
Come again, sorry.
So what he's saying is, how do countries agree not to do these kind of biological wars? Just like the way we have a nuclear consensus now.
How the countries can deal with such biological war?
Yeah, and come to an agreement that they will not do this.
Huh?
Come to an agreement that they will not do this again. See, United Nations came mainly
How
because
did US was tamed in terms of nuclear weapon? You tell me.
yes.
Other countries also began to have nuclear weapons. So US was tamed because it knows that if it uses once more, like Japan used, some other country also will use against US. So that is known as deterrence. We have a nuclear weapon. Pakistan has got neither of. It's a deterrence against that. So, if you really want to deter, you should develop a biological weapon. There is no other way. Hold it. And also tell others that we have got biological weapon. Be careful. Then China will be thinking twice before using it.
Thank you very much, Professor. That was a wonderful discussion. We had a broad range of topics that we discussed about, and it is now very clear that there is only one country, at least according to Professor RV, and I tend to agree with him on this, that this is the real superpower, because when China sneezes, half the world is catching a fever, not just cold. Half the world is catching a fever. And so there are not many people pointing out China's flaws and its faults. I hope this will change in the near future. And as always, Professor RV, namaskaram from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
One important point just now came out yesterday.
Yes, sir.
In China, there is a military defense journal. They publish monthly. There they published one article with a picture of Chinese rocket going up and bodies getting burnt in India. Large number of bodies. Pictures have come all over the world, in this, I think it was Benares Ghat. So these two are contrasted, and this military journal published it. Most interesting thing is they have this Weibo, their Twitter. It appeared there were significant number of people who wrote against it, telling when India is undergoing suffering, this is not the way in which we should be looking at it like that. What I want to say is, underneath there is a groundswell of appreciation, sympathy and understanding about India. Forget about Communist Party and other thing. The Twitter of China was very much against this representation of burning bodies on one side and Chinese achievement. And you know what happened? The military journal has pulled down that video because of the public pressure. What I want to say is, there is a good amount of possibilities of having this type of thing in China. But we have never ever bothered to find out even what can be done. How to use the fault lines within China. This is what I want to mention. Don't look at China from the New York Times, Washington Post lens. And don't look at China only from the Communist Party of China's point of view. There are several other underlying layers which we should explore. Immediately we should start 50 centers, spending huge amount of money, China centers, where people learn Mandarin, where people understand and different regions of China we should study. I saw one, I think I mentioned about in the talk, some 12 students of Chinese origin learning Tamil, talking about it. They have a Tamil broadcasting facility. Many people may not even know, which mouths go on telling about the greatness of China and other things. And the AAR has deputed one from the 60s, 1960s, without realizing that this deputed person is abusing India sitting in Beijing. That is the level of our, what you may loosely call intelligence or whatever it is. I think we must start 50 China centers. Every state must have a China center, studying different regions, different languages, different perspectives, and that is the future. There is nothing less or nothing more. And no point in wasting our time with all this. What is your thing? The German study, Alain Francaise and Max Muller and all that. David Eisenhower and what is your Fulbright and all are passe. If you ask me, they're all over. Don't waste your time trying to study about various aspects of US, and unless you want to have intellectual, nothing more than that. Study China. Youngsters who ask me, I tell them, learn Chinese language. That is the future. That is the future. And or Japanese, one of the two. Chinese will be much better. And 50 centers we should start. Are we willing to do that? This is the most important thing. Otherwise, no point in, because you and I will be discussing China, reading English newspapers. That is of no use. We won't have the insight. I hope I am communicating properly on this score, right? So, start 50 centers, Chinese centers.
Yes, so we know that the government listens to our broadcasts. What we are wondering is the Indian government hearing what we are saying or listening to what we are saying? We will know in the next few days to come whether they are listening to us or they are hearing what we are saying. With those few words, I'd like to bid you goodbye. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back again with Professor RV next Friday, 9 p.m. IST. Namaskar, and thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.